Okay, so we should be recording now, hopefully. and Today we're going to be going over the agent metrics system. So this is a third-party software or system, whatever you want to call it, that we are given access to through the company, but it's its own system. So it works a little bit differently. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you guys how to gain access to the system in case you've never used it before. So just like anything, you can find it through the ACE dashboard. So the first thing you're going to do is log into ACE and go to your dashboard. And the agent metrics can be found under the Market Intelligence tab, which is this kind of turquoisey one here with the brain. So if we click on that, the second one in right here that has a little icon of a house is the agent metrics system we'll be talking about today. So if we click that, it's just going to give you some information on how to get started. So this isn't a single sign-on through ACE. This is actually a software that you have to download to your computer. So it does work on either Mac or Windows-based products. On the laptop, I believe it also works on certain tablets, but not all. It should work on iPad, but I think the Surface Pro, I want to say, is the only other like PC-based tablet it works on. So you definitely want to go through that and make sure you're using a computer where it is going to work. And the other thing about this system is that it is a single MLS login. And what that means is if you are a member of multiple MLSs and you want to be able to use this product with different MLSs, you have to create an individual login for each one because your login is based upon your MLS ID number. So you will need to know that to get signed up. So right here it says, click this link to register your MLS ID and create a login. So if you have multiple, you're just going to follow that link and do that process more than once and create a separate login for each MLS ID. And then anytime you're logging into Agent Metrics to use it, you will have to make sure you're using the proper login, whether it's for Bright or Paragon or what have you, okay? So after you submit that registration, it's going to walk you through a little installation page will pop up. It will walk you through how to download it, how to install it, and then how to do it on a separate computer. Once you've done it the first time, you want to use this link to download it and install it if you already have an ID and you want to do it on two different things, okay? Then they also have right here, there's a 1 hour-ish long kind of overview that you can follow, and I'll show you at the end of this class where the additional training videos are in ACE for us as well. They also, at the bottom, have a Get Help link and a phone number right here. So if you're ever having issues with the system, this isn't something that you want to reach out to the help desk or to me. You actually have to contact them directly. So that information is always right here. So once you've gone through this process and registered yourself and your MLS ID number and created a login and downloaded the software to your computer, it's going to look like this one right here in the middle of my screen, okay? So it's a little blue circle with a little graph bar house looking thing. And you can create a shortcut to your desktop like I have here. It will walk you through that process. At the end of the installation, it will tell you how to do that so that you can always find it right here on your desktop. So I'm going to go ahead now and log into Agent Metrics. Okay, so once you have your username and password set, you can check off this little remember password box, and that way it will pop up every time you log in like it just did for me. All right, so this is the first screen that you're going to see, and right here under Mls Update Status, this will tell you two things. For one, it will tell you which MLS you logged into in case you have more than one. The second thing is that it will tell you the last time that it updated the information from the MLS. Agent Metrics will pull information from the MLS daily, every single night. or morning. This one finished obviously at 10 o'clock this morning. Okay, so that's what you're seeing right there. Now, whether or not the MLS has updated itself every single day is a different story, but Agent Metrics will pull the information every single day from the MLS to make sure it's the most up to date. Now, what you're seeing are 3 different ways that you can use Agent Metrics. The first one is called market share, and what this will do is give you an idea, office by office, company by company, who has what share of each individual market. And I will obviously go into more details with that. Market dynamics is more metrics about the market itself. So how has it changed over time? What do the individual micro markets look like? Third one is pricing analysis. And this one I'm not going to go over with you guys. It's basically another way of doing a CMA. And we already have so many different ways of doing that that are so much easier and more accurate that I really don't want you to waste too much time worrying about this pricing analysis. Again, I'll show you where there's a video to learn about it. So if you ever decide you do want to try to use it as a CMA just to see what it's like or to try to get another pricing opinion, I'll make sure you know how to do it. But for today, we're going to focus on market share and market dynamics. And you can see right here, it has a help me choose button. So if you're logging in again in the future and you can't quite remember what they all do, you can hit help me choose and it will give you a description of what each one is. So for now, we're going to start out with market share. So I'm going to click here. Okay, so it's going to immediately put you into a search box. And this search box screen will look virtually the same no matter which format you're using. Okay, so this is going to become very familiar to you guys. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it here. Okay, so upper right, again, it's telling you what MLS, it's telling you type, it's going to pull by office, okay, as opposed to the entire brokerage. So you can switch between the two. So one would be an entire company, one is office by office, which is the default. Select my search over here. This is if you've created a search and then saved it, if it's one you want to be able to do over and over again without putting in the individual parameters every time. You'll be able to save them and have them show up here, okay? This is what type of properties we're going to be looking at. And again, keep in mind, this is market share. So once we've narrowed this down, it's going to tell us which office and which company has the greatest share of that market. So in this instance, since it's market share, you can leave the parameters a little bit wider than you would if you are looking at market trends. So if you want all different types of properties, and the different types of properties listed here are specific to the MLS. So what you're seeing here are the exact property breakdowns that would exist in Bright. If you're in a different MLS, this might look different. So at the very type here, you can select all. You can focus on just residential properties. You can focus on unclick residential and focus just on residential detached, and maybe you can add condos and townhouses if you want to and leave all the other ones out. If you are interested in who is selling the most farms or mobile homes or land, you can do it that way. If you want to look at who is selling the most duplexes, etc., or who's doing the most commercial. All right, so you can choose whatever parameters you want here. For this instance, I'm just going to go ahead and do all residential. Below that, you can again narrow it down by how many bedrooms. So if you're trying to compare the business that our office is doing in a specific size home, you can do that by changing bedrooms and bathrooms and price range. But for now, I'm going to leave this pretty open-ended because I don't want to get, too specific with this. Next, it gives you a date range. So you can look at it, the year-to-date numbers, quarterly, monthly, just last month, last 6 months, last 12 months, or the last calendar year, or you can even create a custom date. So you can put this in and do the last 3 months, let's say, if you wanted to do that. So for this one, I'm just gonna say I'm interested in this quarter, let's say, okay? And then it's in gray, but it tells you right here, now we're looking July 1st to today, okay? So this is this quarter to date. Next one down here is construction type, and it breaks it down between new construction and resale, or you have the option to look at both by clicking all, okay? Over here on the right-hand side, now we're gonna hone in on what area we wanna look at. And you have from this drop-down menu, several different options of looking up an area, okay? So you can look it up by counties. And one thing I wanna tell you guys right now is because Bright is a multiple state MLS, that's why you'll see counties and then county by state. That's why you'll see cities and city by state. So I highly recommend that if you want to look by either county or city, that you choose the one that says state afterwards. Otherwise, it just has the name of the county and you're not sure which state you're in, and some of them have multiple options. So let's do, oh, and another note too. So with city by state, let me just show you. I'm going to select that one, okay? And then it gives you the area. City and state starts out with zip codes because it's alphabetical, but once you come down, you'll start seeing the name here, all right? And because our MLS works a little differently, when you're using the city name as opposed to the zip code or MLS area, the data is not always 100% accurate because it's based upon what agents entered in their listing in Bright. So if they didn't enter a city name, it's not going to show up under your city search. And just as an example, if we go all the way down to the bottom and we look for, let's say, Washington Township, right? So right? So here we are, Washington Township, New Jersey. It's saying under count, meaning number sold, right? The count displayed reflects the total number of sold listings in this area for the last 12 complete months. Well, obviously, this is not right. There's no way there's been 0 homes sold in all of Washington Township for the past 12 months, okay? And that's purely because that information was never entered, that city name was never entered in the MLS for individual properties. So if you're searching by city and you're seeing a 0 count or, you know, it doesn't seem like it's accurate information, that is why. So for an area like Washington Township, I would suggest you do it by zip code or by MLS area. So I'm going to cancel out of this, go back to my search screen, go back to area type, right? So they have MLS major areas, and I'll show you this. This is by the area number that exists in the MLS. So you kind of have to know that number to find the specific area. So again, if I go down and I try to find Washington Township, it's actually not Washington Township, New Jersey, okay? So what you wanna do in this case, if you are doing this, you wanna make sure you're in the MLS and you know the number code for that MLS area you're trying to find. So that's the hitch with this one. So really, the easiest thing to do if you're looking for like a main town or main area is by zip code, okay? So if you do zip code, again, it's least to highest, or you can click right here and flip it, and then it would be, you know, starts at 99999 instead. So we scroll down, let's say we want to find Washington Township. We're just going to scroll down until we get into the 08012. Here we go. So on this one, we can see there's 615, which sounds a lot more accurate than 0. right? So if you click on this, that's the zip code you want. In the middle here, you'll see this add button pop up, and that's how you select the area that you want to look at. So we would click add. And you absolutely can add multiple areas to this, okay? But it's only under one format at a time. So if you're in zip codes, you can only add several zip codes. You couldn't add 08012 and then try to look up, you know, Sewell by name. You have to do it by zip code. But if you want to look at several zip codes together and see if we're the #1 market or the #1 office in that market for several zip codes, by all means, click on more, click add, and it will add those zip codes here for you. Generally speaking, you probably want to do these one at a time. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. But first, what I want to show you is the last search type, okay? So we have by county and state, by city and state, by MLS area, by zip code, and they actually do have a subdivisions option here. Since our MLS does have that as a search parameter, you can search by subdivision. Again, probably not the most accurate because this depends on whether that agent actually entered subdivision information. All right, just want you to know it's an option. So we're going to do zip codes. We're going to find 08012 again. Oop, I'm too far. Here we are. We're going to click add. And then at the bottom, we're going to click OK once we've made all the selections we want. Brings it back to this screen. Now you can see if you forgot to add one, right here, you still have the option to add one. If you accidentally added multiple and you want to get rid of one, you just click on whatever one it is, and then it gives you a remove option, okay? This other thing on the right is a way to quickly save a search in a specific area. So if you know you want to look at the market share in Washington Township once a week or so, you can save this, you would name it, and now it's been created as a group under your area type. So the next time you log in, instead of having to come in here and look up the zip code and what have you, you can skip straight to that area that you've saved. So that's what the save button does for you, okay? So I've got all my parameters in here. So now in the lower right, I'm going to click the search button. Okay, so the default view you're going to be on is this chart view, okay? And the default selection is the total dollar volume by office. So that, as you can see here at the bottom, is listing side and selling side, and it breaks it down. Green would be list and yellow would be sell. Okay, so this is the total number. You can see here that Keller Williams Cherry Hill office is the highest with 8.2% of the market. Keller Williams in Washington Township is next with 7%. Century 21 is next with 6.7%. Here we are with 5.1% of the market. So if you were trying to use this chart to show a potential selling client, let's say, a potential listing client, that, you know, we're the best office to go through because we have the highest share of the market, as it is, this graph is not going to help you, okay? So you would want to try to edit it a little bit. I'm going to show you some different ways to do that, to try and get it so that we're over here in the #1 position. So we're not always going to be #1. Okay. So the basic chart, is just showing you the market percentage, and it's showing you total dollar volume. Up here under views, we can actually change what we're looking at. It has a drop-down menu. So if you don't want to look at total dollar amount, but you want to look at total number of units instead, you can click that and it will change it. Okay, and now we've moved up one position. We were 4th, now we're 3rd here by number of units. You can look at list dollar amount volume. Okay, so this is just listings, does not include buyers anymore. You can look at just listing by number. And you can see we dropped way down on this one by number of units. And then you can look at just buying by dollar amount, just buying by number of units. And look, we jumped up, now we're second. And then you can look at the totals side by side. So this graph is showing you total percentage, selling percentage, and buying percentage all next to each other. And then same thing. This is the same 3 different total listing and buying, but by number of units as opposed to dollar amount. So those are all the different views that you can choose. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to just the first default one. Next up over here under chart controls is additional information that you can add to this chart. So right now you can see only the market share percentage is checked off, and that's why you're only seeing this at the top of each of these bars. You can select to add the average sales price, okay? So that's what this green number is that just popped on above all of those. So you can see Keller Williams and Cherry Hill had the #1 market share, but their average price was $203,000. And if you look at Mullica Hill, let's say, they only have 3.7% of the market share, but their sales price is higher at $225. All right, so that just gives you some more information. The next ones you can do, which, you know, I don't know how much you're going to use these next two, but if you are interested, it gives you how many units per agent in that office, per producing agent, right? So they have to have been in the MLS having bought or sold something. So you can add that. So it will tell you the average number of sales per agent in the office, you know, 0.9, 1.4, 1.8, etc. Or you can do average dollar amount per producing agent. So 192,000 per agent, 268,000 per agent, so on and so forth. You can choose to add the number of days on market, okay? So again, Keller Williams Cherry Hill is the #1 market share. Their average days on market is 24, right? And then if you come down here, you can see, well, the Mullica Hill, Fox and Roach office, they might only have 3.7% of the Washington Township market, but their average days on market is only 9. So that's one that you can use, the days on market. Let me take these off so it doesn't get too confusing. That's one that you can use where if we're not necessarily like the #1, but say we're #2 in market share and our days on market are much less, that's something you can add, again, as a selling point if you're presenting this to a seller. Okay. The next one you can look at is the commission percentage. And I can tell you when I was playing around with this earlier today, no matter how I did it and what market and whatever, 2.5% seems to be pretty much the average commission that everybody's getting across the board right now. Okay. The next one you can get is the number of producing agents in that office. Okay. And again, keep in mind, this is just for the time period that we selected. So it's showing that we in Washington Township only have 13 producing agents, but that's specifically for Washington Township and specifically from July 1st to today's date. So don't freak out if you see that. So those are all the different types of controls that you can put on this chart. So the next thing I want to show you above these that we were just looking at is up here. So this menu here, the word menu, file, tools, search, view, preferences, etc., are mimicked down here in icons. So if you hover over anything, it will tell you what it is. This is a print preview. This is so you can print it. This is so you can export it. And in which case it will not show up as this pretty chart. It will show up as a CSV format. So, more so for data entry if you want to track this stuff. Next one is to send it via email as a PDF, meaning it will be this pretty picture. You can always send it to yourself and then forward it from there if you want to send it to a client. And then this last window will return you back to the search criteria you entered. So if you're looking at this chart and you don't like it because it's not showing us as, the top office or whatever, and you want to try to change some search criteria to see if you can tweak that a little bit, this is what you would hit instead of the back button to go back to your search criteria. Okay, and if you hover over it, it tells you exactly what you're looking at, what search criteria you had entered. If we skip over to here, this is just going to change the view, right? So this is what it would look like if you exported it. Okay, so this is the data format versus the chart format. So it gives you all of the information that you could have used by clicking on all those extra chart controls. It gives you all of that in this version. Okay, so it gives you by office, how many listings, list price, list dollar amount total, how many numbers buyers or solds they had, dollar amount total, and then the total of all of these, right? So 9 listings plus 8 buyers equals 17 total, and the total dollar amount they earned, how the market share percentage they calculated, their average days on market, the average price, the average per producing agent, the dollar amount per producing agent, commission percentage, and how many, MLS IDs from that office. So that's how many agents, registered to that office in the MLS. We keep coming over. How many producing agents they have, how many producing agents are calculated based on your current search criteria, the difference between how many agents and how many were active during this time period in this area, and the percentage of producing agents and, on how many versus total. It's 8.3%. So it gives you a lot more data this way. So as an agent, this might be interesting for you to look at, but if you're trying to produce something to share with a client, probably want to stick with this. It's much simpler and easier for them to understand. All right, so let's look at some ways that we can potentially try to change this outcome by editing our search criteria. And again, that icon is this one. It looks like the little spyglass here. So if we click that, it brings us back to our search menu. And we can say, okay, well, we definitely weren't the #1 office for all types of residential homes. Maybe we want to see if we were the #1 office for detached homes. And let's change construction type. Instead of all types, let's just focus on resales. I don't care about new construction because sometimes they have their own salespeople anyway. So those are the 2 things I'm going to change. I'm just going to change it to detached resale homes only. I'm going to click search again, and it's going to generate a new graph. So you can see some of the positions did change. We're still over here in #4, but you can tell the difference. Okay, and you can hover over any of these offices and it tells you the breakdown right there. It tells you list volume, sell volume, total volume, market share, days on market, average price. So all of those things you could add by clicking up here. If you hover over it, it will give you that information. All right, so we're still not #1 by switching it to detached resale. So let's see, we're going to go back up here to our search criteria. And let's do all residential, but resale only. Let's see what that does. All right, moved up a little bit, but not too much. Still over here. Let's break it down by price. All right, so let's say residential detached, resale only. but we're gonna do, let's see, 4-bedroom homes specifically, right? Let's say you're pitching this to a potential listing client who has a 4-bedroom home. Let's see what that does. Okay, so now we're getting that specific information. And I'm gonna add days on market. So you can see Keller Williams Cherry Hill still has the largest percent of market share, but their days on market is 14, based on our days on market is only 10. All right. So as you can see, each time you go back to the search criteria, you can, try shifting these things just to see if any different type of, combination winds up bumping us up higher. Nope, still the same. Okay. So at this point, while we're still on this market share, yeah, I was gonna say, I'm coming back to you guys, so give me a second here.
I was going to tell you to change the, instead of quarter year to date, change the date.
Yeah, you can do that as well, exactly. So if you want to see that, you would go back here. That's date range, right? So we would go to year to date, let's say. We'll do residential detached, we'll do resale. Let's take that off, search. Okay, still seem to be holding strong at number 4. But yes, that is exactly right, Kathy. That's yet another parameter. Like any of these parameters you can keep playing with to see if it helps us out. Again, let's do 4 bedrooms again, see what we got. No, we're way down there. We definitely don't want to do that one. But you guys get the idea, right? Let's do all. Let's see what happens. Why not? Let's look at all types of properties across the board. Still number 4. So we apparently we're just number 4 pretty much, give or take, in Washington Township. All right. But again, this is total dollar volume, right? So don't forget, you can change your search parameters, but you can also change your view. So maybe
can you excuse me, can you just change it instead of putting Berkshire Hathaway, each office, can you just change it by the company in New Jersey?
Yes, at the beginning, you would have chosen broker as opposed to office. You could do it that way.
Just curious, because you can't use this to present.
Right. So there's the other thing that was created for us called the number 1 market stories, if you guys remember that. And that is by our entire brokerage. So that's a lot easier to do than this version. So for this one, I would only do it by office. If you want to look at it by brokerage, I would just do the number 1 market stories, because yes, we're number 1 in almost every single market if you look at us by brokerage, right? So that would be an easy way to do that. Let's look at total number of units. Oh, now we're number 2 in total number of units. We jumped from 4 to 2, right? So change your search parameters, change your view, right? Because if you just show them total number of units, they're not going to know the difference between that and dollar volume, So you can do it that way. Let's see, if we leave it total number of units, we do year to date, resale, detached, search. Back down to number 4. What can I tell you? Maybe I didn't use the best area as an example, but hopefully you guys all get the idea on the different ways that you can manipulate this information. You can change, oh, let's look at units. That was volume. Units were number 2. Yeah, so the amount of money volume on just solds, right? So not on both sides. So this is just buyers. Again, we're number 2. We're literally, 0.1% behind. So if you're representing a buyer, there you go. So you can change all of these. Oh, look, we're number one. Hey, all right. So if you look at just buyer number of units, we're number one in that section of this market, in that little slice. So you can change your views here. You can change your search criteria here. And again, Kathy, if you wanted to look at brokerage, right? So all I did was click my search criteria button right here where it says type. Instead of office, you can do broker search. Obviously now it's insanity, right? Berkshire Hathaway is at 17.4% of the market, and the next closest is 9.7. So pretty much anywhere that you do it by brokerage, that's what it's going to look like.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that just New Jersey or is that across the states? All like New Jersey, Delaware?
Headquarters, so it's going to be everywhere. Well, no,
Okay.
It's going to be in the area that we put in, I guess. But it's combining all the different offices that have serviced that area. So because we're looking at Washington Township, this probably isn't taking into consideration the Delaware agents, the Pennsylvania agents. I mean, obviously, most of them aren't going to be listing a home or representing a buyer in the state of New Jersey. But this would be combining Washington Township, both the Cherry Hill office, both Mullica Hill offices.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's state specific and not across the states. That's
Yeah,
all.
because we chose Washington Township, it is specific to that area. Whatever area you would have chosen, it will be specific to that area. All right, so any questions on the market share section that I just went through before I move on? No, we're good? Barb, you're muted, so if you have a question, just unmute yourself. Okay. All right, so that is essentially how you would use the market share part. Now, if I want to get back out to go to the market trends part, instead of closing all the way out and trying to log back in, I'm just going to go to this top menu right here. So under file is everything that you saw the icons for, the print preview, the print, the mail as PDF, save as PDF, export the data, or close out this search. Tools, the next one over, takes me to the three different options we saw at the very beginning. So right now I'm on market share. If I want to look at market dynamics instead, all I have to do is come here and click market dynamics, or pricing analysis if you want to go use that one. These two things down here, just so you are aware of what they are, the MLS median price trend, let's see if it's available. This is a graph over a 10-year time period if they have access to that information. So it's 10 years broken down by quarter, and it's the median price of sold units. So that's an easy one-click, data that you can get. Because trend turned into bright, they do not have it going all the way back to 2010. They only have it starting the last quarter of 2016. Okay, and basically there seems to not be much of a change, or they're not calculating it. They're not calculating it actually. This is 0%. They're not able to calculate it because it doesn't have a start in 2010. But I believe if you click here and then hold down the shift and click there, now it's showing you the trend over this amount. So that's kind of a neat hack you guys should be aware of. On absolutely any chart, if you want to change the time period it's calculating the data for without backing out and changing it, let's say from quarterly to year to date. If you're on a year to date chart, but you just want to look at July through September, you can click your mouse on, let's say this is July, hold down your shift key on your keyboard, and then click on, you know, pretend this is September and a year-to-date chart. And now it will calculate that data just for that time period that you've delineated. So since on this median price, we weren't able to go back all the way to 2010, it wasn't calculating any data for you. So all I did was click here, hold down the shift key, click here, and now you can see between the last quarter of 2016 and the second quarter of 2020, the median price of sold properties has increased by 20%. And that's across the Bright MLS. So this isn't area specific, this chart. This is a general trend. You can see quarter to quarter, the median price went up by 4,000. Percentage wise, that's 1.5%. You can see in total, the average price went up 56,248, and the total percentage is 20.4%. Okay, so that's under tools, is the MLS median price trend. And that doesn't always exist for every MLS, but they had it for this one. The next option under there is the Mls Update Status. That's the same exact thing that you saw when you first logged on. So a little window is going to pop up and it's just going to tell you what MLS you logged into and when it last updated. That's all that is. Okay. Search is you can create a custom search option and save it. So if you remember at the very beginning when we were looking and I said in the upper right, here's my searches. That's how you would create a custom search and save it there. View, you can toggle between chart and grid. So right now we're looking at a chart view. If I click grid, it's going to show us the grid, which is like the data view. So that's what view is in the upper menu. Preferences is where you would go to change anything of your options. You can change your password, you can change your areas that you've saved, and you can change your searches that you've saved. Okay, and window just tells you what you're looking at, and you can go back and say, oh, I want to look at that last window I had open. I want to go back to the main, you know, metrics view here. And then there's the help menu. So that's what this upper menu does. What I want to do now is change from market share to market dynamics. So I'm going to go to tools and I'm going to go to market dynamics. This should look very familiar. Okay, we're now in market dynamics, but the search box looks exactly the same. So it tells you right here, market dynamic statistics are based on closed MLS transaction. Each closing generates one transaction side only. So whereas the previous market share information we were looking at was both list and buy side by default, this one is only sold by default. Okay. Here again is where you would select a save search if you had created one. It tells us we're in the Bright MLS. Hold on. Excuse me. Property types, again, the same. We can look at residential. We can look at only residential, detached. And when we're talking about market dynamics, this is the tool where you probably want to narrow everything down a little bit more to get an idea how either specific areas or specific types of properties in certain areas are trending over time. Okay, so in this case, we're going to enter a few more search parameters so that we're getting some more accurate and useful information. So I am going to stick with detached residential homes. I'm going to look at specifically 3-bedroom homes. I'm going to come over here to area type and again use zip code just because that's the easiest. We'll go down to 08012. We'll click on it so it's highlighted and then use the add button to put it into our selection. Then we will hit OK. All right. So further, you know, you can put a price range in and you can do a minimum and a maximum, or you can do one or the other. So if I don't want to look at anything under 100,000, let's say, you can put in that minimum price range and it will show you everything 3 bedrooms, 100,000 and up in this zip code. Next is time period. Do we want to look over the past 2 years? Do we want to look over the past 1 year? And both of those are broken down by months. Do we want to look at the last 6 months, week to week? Or do we want to look at the last 3 years broken down into quarters? For this one, let's do the past year, month to month. Okay. You can further put in, again, minimum and maximum, or one or the other, for square feet or lot. And you can change the construction type to all or just resale. If you want to save this as a search, here's your button right here. And that way you have easy access to it. You don't have to recreate these parameters every time you want to take a look. You'll just be able to go select my search, click this one that we've here, I'll save it. And we're gonna do Washington Township year. Okay, and now here it is under my searches. So the next time I come back, I can just click this and all of these same search parameters will be there for me. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and click search to generate the chart. Okay. Now, whenever you're looking at a large period of time, this little bar is going to pop up and it's going to tell you exactly what I just showed you, that you can customize any 1, 2, or 3 year view by clicking on any bar in the chart, holding down the shift key, and then clicking on another bar. That will change the information to that specific time period. So because July of 2019 and July of 2020 are highlighted, you know that's the time period that it's calculating this information for. All right. So again, down here, it's comparing the beginning month versus the ending month. That's what we're on because those 2 bars are highlighted. If you want to look at this entire time frame as a whole, right here, you can toggle down here, you can toggle over to whole time period. And if you're not sure what the difference between these are, if you hover over it, it gives you a description right there. Okay, so if we're looking at just beginning month versus end month, we can see here, again, just solds, right? It's telling us. In July of 2019, so $192,500 was the median price. In 2020, it had gone up to $194,000. So that's a median price change of $1,500 or 0.8%. Now, if we come over here and click whole time period, we get a little bit of a different view. It's still only solds and it's still only median price, but it tells you the month to month change was about $1,434. Month to month change is about 0.7%. Total change over that entire time period, the median prices increased $17,205, which gives you a total percent change of up by 9.3%. Okay, so you can look month to month, or you can look over the whole time period, and you can change it again. Let's say I just want to look from January of this year to July, right? I would click here. It's telling me again, this is how you do it, right? Click here. Hold my shift key down, click here. So now we're just looking at this year, January through July. August isn't on here because we haven't completed the month yet, and this is a monthly chart. So now, again, we're only comparing the beginning month and the end month, but the beginning month is January and the ending month is July. So for solds, In January, the median price was $168,500. By July, the median price was $194,000. That tells you something right there, doesn't it? The median price change was up by $25,500, which is 15.1% from January of this year to July of this year. So that's some pretty incredible information right there, right? And then obviously over here on the chart, it gives you in thousands. So you can see, you know, it goes up and down, up and down. June was even higher, right? July came down a little bit, and it will be interesting to see what August looks like after that closes out. But you can see where it jumps up, right? So March, everything was still kind of normal. April, everybody freaked out because we were all quarantined. May, everybody started figuring their stuff out. June was the total run on the market, calmed down a little bit, seems like this past month, even if it doesn't feel that way. But this is what it's showing us, okay? And again, this is just the median price, all right? If you want to change the median price, there's different options up here than we're on the market share. So let's go through those. Right now, we are on a price chart. We are looking at the view of median price. We can change that to the sold average versus median price, in which case it gives you, let me go back to the whole year here. There we go. So we can look at the average sold price versus the median price here, right? And it's from July of 2019 to July of 2020. So again, we're looking at just the beginning month and the end month, or we can switch it down here to go to whole time period. All right, so this is the average sales price. This is the median price every month. Back up to views. We can look at the average sales price versus original price. Okay, and it gives you the comparison. And this is, I'm looking over the whole time period as opposed to beginning and end month. Okay, so it stayed pretty steady at around 98%. You can look at the average sales price versus listing price. So the average sales price to listing price, again, about 98%. Went up 0.1, about 1, let's say. Average sales price across all properties. Average price per square foot. Okay, so let's do this again. Let's do January to July of this year. Oops, the wrong button. Did it backwards. Let's try that again. I want January to July, not reverse. Interesting. So it looks like per square foot, it's saying over this time period, it went down 0.7%. Which is interesting because the average median price went up.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Right? So that's interesting.
Doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, this is specific per square foot, which can be all over the place sometimes if you look at markets, right?
But and some of the data I'm seeing here, how can I, when you had the list price to sales price,
Yep.
original list to sales, I'm at a loss to see that because I put in so many offers over ask price and we're not getting them, the houses. So this doesn't seem to correlate with my experience.
Well, again, please keep in mind, like this also isn't showing this entire month. And this was kind of the crazy month, right?
No, I had last month too. That's what I'm saying. I just, I must have put in 5-6 offers for for several people, and I'm not getting the house because they're getting better offers, and all the financing has been good. So I'm trying to figure this out, how this, when I'm seeing the list price, original list price to the sales price, it just doesn't seem to correlate to what I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Huh.
Well, you can,
Crazy.
you can play around with that some more by area and stuff like that as well. But that's just the different views I wanted to show you guys under price. Okay.
Okay.
In addition, you have chart data. So as you can see right now, we're only looking at solds. Let me go back to median price just to use that since that's the default. So under chart data, we're only looking at solds. If you want to also look at for sale, right, and under contract, you can choose up to 3 different things under chart data. So now we can see between January and July of this year, the number for sales went up by 20%, the number under contract went up by 23.5%, and the number that sold went up by 25%. So it's going up across the board here. Okay.
Can you show that with the correlation on price? Like original list price to sales price?
Sure. So that's under views, right? So we would go to average sales price versus list price. Is that what you're talking about?
No, the average list price to the average sales price.
That's this.
Okay.
Okay. So it's showing us the blue is the sales price versus the list price in the brown. So you can see sales price is higher than list price.
Yeah, if you look on July, you see it's higher. June's a little higher.
Yep.
May's higher. Okay. April is not. Okay. That's more what I'm experiencing in this market.
Yeah. So it just depends on how you manipulate the data, right?
Okay.
So there you go. This would be more in keeping with what you were talking about. You can see here,
right,
which months they were selling for above list price. And July for sure has the biggest difference. Right? It has a difference of 4.54% over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
That makes me feel a little bit better that the data is a little.
Yeah. And again, it's only as accurate as the information entered in the MLS. You have to remember that too. All right. So I'm going to go back to median price, and that was chart data. Okay. So you can select up to 3 of these options. So I can take this off, and I can also, now I'm back to just solds. Now I can look at expired and new listings as well. All right. So whichever 3 of these you want, you can select up to 3 to look at side by side. Other than that, you can change it to number of units, which will add the total number of sold units per month.
That's not that many.
Okay, click that off. And then it has these different delineation lines. These I don't know. So these are only helpful if you're looking at something like we just were on the last one where you're comparing 2 different like list price versus sales price, right? So if we do average median price, all it's doing is showing you where the average is. So the average is 195 around here, and then it's showing you which months it was under and which months it was over. Okay. If you do beginning to end, right, over this time period, the beginning is the 168, the end is the 194, and then it can break it down peak. So it's showing you at the highest peak, it was at 229, right? So that's what the delineation lines are. And then trend lines are different, right? You get kind of this curvy. It shows you what started to happen. Or you can get a linear version where it just goes from up to down. So those are all different things you can add, but you don't want to add too many of these at any given time if you're trying to show this to someone else, because it gets very hard to read. And for that exact reason, if you choose multiple chart data, right? So if I look at for sale, under contract, and sold, all of these become grayed out because they don't want to add all of this to it. It becomes impossible to read the data. So I just wanted you to make you aware of what these other options are. and that you can't throw all of them on here because it just makes it too hard to understand what the data is. And for a chart like this, just so you are aware, if you were to email it or save it as a PDF, it's actually 2 pages. It's going to show it in this format. It's also going to show it in this format, right? Which I can change back and forth between the 2 up here. So you'll get both if you print this out or email it. You'll get this view and you'll get this view. Okay? So that's all based on price. Next over here is supply and demand you can look at. So this is number of units. Let me go back to just sold to make it simpler. And again, I dictated that this is January through July of this year.
I thought it was June.
I'm sorry, January through July. No, July. January.
Oh, it is January. I'm sorry.
Of this year. And if you want to be able to see exactly the number of units without trying to have to read it over here, just click on number of units and there it is. Okay. And then again, the changes are down here. Here's over the total period, the number of units increased by 92%. All right, so that's supply and demand, which is a different view. And each one will have a drop down. So under price, right, we had all those different views. Then we're looking at supply and demand. We're looking at number of units, but you can also look for sale versus for sale last day of, I don't even know what that is, to be perfectly honest with you. For sale last day. Not entirely sure what that one is, but it's a different option. And then sales rate is the last style and this is your monthly supply of inventory. So now we can see that it's gone down, right? It shot up in April because no one was really out buying, as we just saw, right? Because April was lower on the other ways we were looking at it. And now we can see in May, June, and especially July, we have a severe downward trend on available inventory. It's gone down 58%. Okay. Any questions?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Well, then I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. Obviously, there's a lot more to this. You can play around with it a lot. The last thing I'm going to show you before I let you go is where you can go get additional training or information on agent metrics. Okay. So very simple. If you're an ACE dashboard, you're going to go to the education tab here, training library folder, help documents and videos, and it's alphabetical. So we scroll down till we get to agent metrics here, and you can either select the help documents, or you can say, I want to watch a video instead. And it shows you the different available videos. This is a 1-hour overview, but I'm telling you, since I watched this one actually doesn't go over market share, since not every brokerage has access to that information. We do. So then they broke it down into 3 different ones. This is the pricing analysis or CMA tool, if you want to learn that. This is the market share, which we went over today. And this is the market dynamics that we just finished with. So if you need a refresher, you can come in here and find these. Okay, that is it. So unless you guys have any other questions, we're good to go. Let me just check the chat. Did that was confusing. Tell Lisa that Corey changed the time frame. I don't know what that means, but you can tell me.
I'm done. I mean, I have no questions.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much. I'll let you go now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, on.